Sheesh, we barely made it out. In this episode, we'll talk about the Cardinals versus Texans post-game recap. Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? It's Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live, and in this episode, we'll discuss the Week 11 Cardinals versus Texans post-game recap and just give you some of my thoughts. And first of all, we'll have to start off by saying our top 5 things to look out for pretty much came true in the game. If you go watch that episode, you'll like what I said, and it kind of came true in this game. So take a look at that last video. I'll try to figure out a way to connect that down below. But a quick recap that we have. The Texans took on the Cardinals, and we got the 21-16 victory at home, rocking candy red paint and deep blue steel. It was a good win for the Texans, a hard-fought win for the Texans, but you got to be tired of these close, down-to-the-wire games. I like the game. I like to see how the defense was finally able to stand up, but I'll get into those thoughts a little bit later. So that 21-16 win over the Cardinals marked a good string of victories for the Texans, and I'm excited for that. Getting into a little bit of the metrics that we have here, we were able to put together over 300 yards of offense, over 400 yards of offense to their 300 yards of offense. And then, you see CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray having some decent games. Kyler Murray he's a gamer. He's never going to stop being a gamer, and he played. And that was one of the takeaways that I have, that he will always be able to game. And without us having Perriman, it would be a tough battle out there. And he made it tough for our defense, but they were able to stick it out and get the victory there. But let's roll into it. Let's get into it. Let's talk about CJ Stroud's performance. I am not opposed to how CJ played overall. And it sounds crazy to say, but I mean, although he did have 3 picks, he went 27 for 37, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Those 3 interceptions came at the tail end of kind of longer drives where we were driving down, having efficient offensive plays. He did look rookie-esque in some of those plays, like the Nico Collins pick. I'm just confused at what he was doing there, trying to kind of force it into there. Even if he did kind of get it over the defender's head, it still would have been a questionable throw for me. I really didn't like that throw. And the other 2 interceptions, they were just like one bounced off a receiver. I give you that. But I mean, he put a little bit too much sauce on that. It looked rookie-esque, but he had 336 yards with 2 touchdowns and efficient drives. Game management was well. We just had those 3 picks from CJ. So it's kind of one of those games where it's like you take away the 3 picks and we just have 336 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has another solid game on the record. So how do you guys feel about CJ Stroud's performance? I don't think it's a bad performance, but I don't think it's the best performance. I think it's one of his rookie-esque performances that he was able to get out. Tell me how you feel about CJ Stroud's performance below. I like the guy. I think if it were to have a bad performance, have it now before the Jacksonville Jaguars game, and I believe that he'll come back and put something together. What you can say, who had a good performance, is the defense. Defense was able to put together a decent performance against a gaming offense with Kyler Murray and James Conner back in the mix. Both those guys were out there balling, and they did show that they were gamers. Conner was one step away from popping a play every time. Even in a few of the shifts of the defense, you saw that he was able to kind of pause, wait, delay, then hit the hole, and Cashman overran him. Cashman had 19 tackles, franchise record, but they were having to work out there, especially without Perriman and Ward. It was tough for the defense, and I give them credit. They worked their butts off, and they hustled, and they saved our defense. And they had like game-saving stops. So you cannot be mad at how the defense played as a whole. Cashman for shifting over, taking over for Perriman, calling those plays. DBs coming up with some good stops. And finally, we got Stingley out there balling. We have a lot of people out there balling. Let's say that our DBs out there getting the interceptions that we need to get made. And it's finally, we get to see some good play from our defense. I'm not going to say finally, these guys have been balling out, but to see that they're able to kind of put together stops and we're not just getting ate up by a gaming type offense is good. And you have to imagine once Kyler Murray gets back into the swing of things, the Cardinals are in every game. They will be in every game. They'll be competitive. Their record doesn't tell the whole story. And Kyler Murray coming back is one of the things that I like to see. Moving forward to the O line. O line. Our O line played decent. Our O line played decent this game. I'm not opposed to how the O line played. I give them credit where credit is due. They were able to come out. They were able to ball and had some good cohesiveness throughout the game. You see that their pass rankings on PFF were slightly lower than their run rankings on PFF. I really don't. I take those with a grain of salt, but you do see trends out there. Titus Howard is our worst performing offensive lineman per Pro Football Focus, but he's playing out of position. He's playing at right guard position. Should be at the. He's playing at left guard position. He should be at the right tackle position. I don't mind leaving the cohesiveness where we're at. I love how fans. I don't love how fans playing, but I give them credit for keeping the cohesiveness, and hopefully Titus Howard settles down and they're able to continuously run on the opposing teams. I like the run game we have going as well. We were able to run for 111 yards, so you can't be mad at our run game that we were able to put together throughout the whole game. The big guys up front are giving a good push to our offensive line, from our offensive line, and we're calling good plays. So shout out to the offensive linemen for the cohesiveness and Bobby Slowick for the game calls. I mentioned DB play earlier, but I kind of wanted to get into this. This is something that I noticed, and I think on Twitter, you see all up down Twitter, you see the comments on Petrie's play at DB, and it makes me wonder how it would have been impacted if Jimmy Ward would have been in the defense as far as the safeties are concerned. I I hope Jimmy Ward's able to come back. Let's just say that we need him back. He's a kind of a field general, and he allows us to play better. I love the way he plays. They call plays. It seems like they were more aggressive, and receivers had to look out for Jimmy Ward being there. They couldn't just sit in the zones. He'll be able to ball hawk them out and kind of just make it tough for them. So Petrie had a tough game. He'll be able to snap back. Some of those things were just Arizona making those plays that were tough for DBs to cover, especially when you have somebody like Murray being able to extend the plays out as he's able to do. So I give Petrie some grace for the game because he's playing a gaming type QB with James Conner coming out the backfield and the receivers that are able to pop off for those nice zone soft runs, yards at the catches. So shout out to Jalen Petrie. Hopefully you're able to play a better game next week because this week you had a tough one. But I see him improving. I just see the cohesiveness of the defensive unit as a whole being good. They're making do with what they have. Cashman, obviously, 19 tackles, a phenomenal performance. Our defensive front seven, we cannot go without mentioning that defensive front seven. Will Anderson Jr., top in the league as far as rookies are concerned, with hurries, with pressures. It's not all about the sack. The sacks are the pretty thing, but the dirty work that Will Anderson is doing to command the offensive line's attention, sliding over, and then we're getting those interior defensive linemen to make those plays. Shout out to Will Anderson. Shout out to the front seven. Hopefully our DBs are able to come back and kind of continue to solidify that back end. If our DBs are able to do that, we'll be successful going forward. And we need to get a decisive victory going forward. So tell me your thoughts on our defensive play. Comment below, like, subscribe, share. The AFC South race is heating up. I am a fan of the AFC South and for the competitiveness that we're doing. I didn't think we would be nearly as competitive as we are. The AFC race is heating up. The Texans are number 7 in the AFC. And small playoff. I keep on saying small playoff with a small P. We're in the wild card race. We're doing decent there. But this upcoming week is huge. We are playing Jacksonville at home and need to pack out the stadium. So if you're a Texans fan, let's get to the stadium. Let's get this win against Jacksonville. They're coming off a dominant victory, and we are coming off 3 consecutive close game victories. So, playoffs, can we make it? All that and more. So, let's talk playoffs. The Texans are in the AFC South race, and I didn't even think we would be there. We are number 2 behind the Jacksonville Jaguars and number 7 in the AFC. This is good for the Texans because our schedule is favorable for us to be successful. We just have to continue to have games like we've been having. I think the Texans are in a decent place, and we can, like we did earlier in the year, sneak a victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are in the upswing. You never know what you're going to get from them, nor do you know what you're going to get from the Tennessee Titans and a Mike Vrabel team. How do y'all think the Texans will end the year out? Our schedule is favorable. Hopefully, we're able to be successful and make the playoffs. I'm Lance Hayes at Sports Social Live. Subscribe, like, share. Until the next video.